Good morning. So today I want to talk about the squeeze page lead flow. So there's lots and lots of different ways to generate leads online and or sales, and we'll be going through many of them over the course of the next couple of days and maybe even weeks. And what I want to do is start with something simple, something foundational. And the squeeze page flow is probably the most foundational flow because it is kind of one of the simplest ones. And if you understand the principles behind how squeeze page flows work, the rest of the different kinds of I'll call it mechanics or ideas behind other kinds of flows will really make a lot of sense. So when we're building a lead funnel, we're trying to build a sales funnel. What are we ultimately trying to do? We're ultimately trying to move a visitor from where they are. Let's call it cold traffic, and there's different kinds of traffic, but let's imagine this is cold traffic or somebody who's relatively unfamiliar with us, and we're trying to move them from that state to a new state, which is inside of our mailing list or potentially a customer. And again, we've talked through before the different ways and different progressions of what that process looks like, at a strategic level. So today I want to really kind of start diving a little bit more uh, into some of the strategies and tactics that ultimately affect this process from somebody becoming a prospect or a visitor to your site and becoming ultimately a lead in this particular case. So the fundamentals of most of these funnels is going to be the same. You're going to essentially try and attract somebody through through the use of things like the curiosity arousing headlines, a compelling offer, all the stuff that we've talked about before on this podcast, and then ultimately use all of that to then move them one step further. And in some cases, you're going to be asking for the lead up front. In some cases, you'll be asking for the lead maybe a little bit further behind. In other cases, you may be asking for a sale. And so squeeze page flow is probably the simplest way to demonstrate how some of these things will happen. And what's great about a squeeze page flow is that this can be done either as an independent landing page, meaning you've got a page with the squeeze page that you are driving somebody to, or it could even be a pop-up. In fact, most pop-ups will follow a very similar kind of flow as a basic squeeze page flow. So when we get into a squeeze page flow, there are really, I'll call it four main components. There's really 8 things that you need to have, but there's really kind of 4 main blocks, I guess, for lack of a better word. And those blocks are the squeeze page itself, the thank you page, which is where the squeeze page will go, the lead magnet, that's ultimately the offer that is going to be given via a squeeze page, and then the email autoresponder or email automations that are triggered subsequently to somebody giving you their contact information. So let's dive in. How does a squeeze page work exactly? So squeeze page is generally designed to get somebody to become a lead from being a prospect. In many cases, this is probably going to be cold traffic, though it doesn't necessarily have to be cold traffic. You could, for instance, be sending an offer to people that are already on your mailing list, so they can get some other resource. But in that case, they're already on your mailing list, and so really your squeeze pages are going to be for getting people who are not in your mailing list to people who are in your mailing list. Though certainly you might come up with other use cases as well. So with a squeeze page, you're typically going to have a very, very simple landing page. And again, this also works for pop-ups, so you can kind of think about these two things kind of interchangeably. So with a squeeze page, you're generally going to have a really good headline, a compelling offer, some kind of image or video describing what that person is going to get, and then you're basically just asking for the email address. These are not intended for a lot of fluff. The goal is to really make them simple and to really use curiosity as the main driver for somebody to end up in your mailing list. And so with a squeeze page, in fact, less is more. And in fact, you're better off spending more time trying to figure out how to create a compelling offer and a compelling headline than trying to really build an entire landing page. And again, we'll get into that flow, a landing page flow at some other point. Um, the great thing about a squeeze page is that it allows you to do a lot of testing. If you're really disciplined about your headline, your offer, and kind of your pitch, and you really spend a lot of time trying to figure out which of those 3 components is the biggest lever, the squeeze page is the perfect place to do that because those are the only components on that page. It's your headline, your offer, and your pitch. Maybe a graphic or a video, but that's it. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to fine tune which of those components is the one or the ones that's most effective. And so less is really more because you have the ability to really kind of hone in on those three components. Whereas if you were to do a bigger landing page or a bigger kind of something more involved, there can be so many more data points that you haven't tested that could be leading to conversion or decreasing conversion, and you just wouldn't know. So how does a squeeze page work? So it starts by sending somebody to the squeeze page, which has your curiosity-arousing headline, an image, a pitch, and a pitch for a really compelling offer, and then asks for an email address. Once that email address is entered, then the site redirects to a thank you page. And on the thank you page, you're going to be saying, thanks for downloading the resource, and letting the person know that they should be looking for the resource via email. Now, you can actually make the resource available for download on the thank you page. That's totally fine, and you see that paradigm all the time. The reason not to do that, and again, this is an opportunity to, again, you think about it, your mileage may vary depending on your business, but the reason not to do it is to get somebody used to checking their email for your email. So if you deliver the lead magnet, so if you send someone to a thank you page, you're still being courteous, but if you wait to deliver the lead magnet via email, then they have to check the email to get the resource, and they don't just get it on the thank you page. So it prevents them from being able to just kind of download the resource on the thank you page and then never, and then send your emails to spam or never go check your emails again. Way to extend your thank you page is to introduce your next offer. So you might say, hey, thank you for this thing. I'm really grateful for your giving me your information. Check your email for the lead magnet. By the way, we've got this other thing coming up. Click here if you'd like to learn more. A lot of people underestimate the value of the thank you page, but you've got someone who is captive on that page who has just given you their information and is looking for the resource that they requested. And so their attention is more focused on this page than it is on many other web pages. So you want to make sure you're using that real estate wisely and that you're introducing your next offer, whatever that might be, when possible. Now, what happens to the lead data? So as the lead is entered, at the same time, that information gets popped into your email list. Ideally, that email list is one that you're going to be using some form of tagging or some other way to be able to distinguish that this person requested this information. And again, we'll get into email automations at some point in the future. And then you'll deliver your lead magnet via email, typically with an autoresponder. Now, a pro tip would be to not just have an autoresponder, but to then have a complete email automation that nurtures somebody from lead into whatever the next step of your process is, whether that's a meeting or whether that's a purchase. That can really depend. Okay, so what might that look like? So for a B2B business, right, you might have a white paper that you've done. Maybe you've done some research and you want to use that to get more leads in your industry. Squeeze page will be a great example, a great way to use that. So here is this amazing research. Here's why this is valuable. Enter your email, we'll send you the report. B2C, let's say you're in the world of e-commerce. Your squeeze page might be a pop-up, and it might be something like get 15% off your first order if you enter our mailing list. You see that that's a very common kind of a thing. If you're in other kinds of businesses, someone like us, we will give away things like resources. So, your ultimate website checklist, right? Download that here, right? So the sky's really the limit here. The important thing is to make sure that you've got an offer or some kind of lead magnet that is compelling enough that somebody would be willing to trade their email address for that offer. Now, what happens if your offer doesn't work? And at some point, we'll talk about testing in a lot more detail. But if your offer doesn't work, it might not be because the offer is bad. It could be because you've got the wrong audience. It could be because the headline's not great. It could be that the pitch isn't great. So this goes back to the real benefit of a squeeze page, which is that it allows you to really test things. But I would encourage you, if it doesn't work the first time or even first 5 times, don't give up. There is a configuration that will probably work if we're clear on who your customer is, you've got a good offer, and the value proposition is clear. So if you wanted to build your own squeeze page, what are some of the things that you would need? So there are a couple of components that are pretty common for a squeeze page to be to be able to be built and be built successfully. So one is you need a curiosity arousing headline. Because there is very little content on the squeeze page, it is just your headline, your pitch, and maybe a graphic or a video. You really have to arouse curiosity here. That has to be the thing that gets somebody interested in your offer. A compelling offer is an absolute must. It has to be something somebody is willing to exchange their email or their phone number for. Some kind of image or video is also really helpful, though it is not necessary. And I should have probably said that from the outside. It's not necessary. You can do squeeze pages that are just text-based. It depends on what your offer is. If you don't have a compelling image, that's fine. You don't need one. But that then means that the pitch and the headline are that much more important. Curiosity arousing leader, paragraph, bullets, pitch, those are all kind of the same thing. An exciting call to action. So what's going to get somebody to click that button? Obviously, you need an email service provider, which is where you're going to dump the lead data so that the autoresponder can then fire off. You do need the lead magnet itself, as well as an email, delivering that lead magnet, and then optionally a whole email nurture campaign will also help you to be able to not just deliver that initial lead magnet, but then subsequently nurture somebody to the next step of the process. So that's how the squeeze page funnel works. We'll link to this diagram in the show notes here. But hopefully you found this helpful. And if you did, please take a second to subscribe or like, depending on whatever platform this is. I'm not even 100% sure anymore what platforms go where. If you do know somebody else who might find this valuable, please share it with them on whatever channel you are consuming this information. All right. Hey, thank you so much for your time, and we will talk to you soon.